Hi everyone, and welcome to SuttonsDaze. Today I thought we would chat a little bit about stacking jars. To stack or not to stack? That is the question. There was a great conversation that happened in the Facebook group this week, and a lot of information came out that I wasn't aware of. When I was taught to can, I was told, don't stack jars. The reasoning behind it was that it could create a false seal. Now when you look at jars, ugly chicken, when you look at jars, okay, you've got that middle part, it's indented, right? And you've got the bottom of the jar. And when you stack them, the bottom of the jar sits right in that indented part. That's a heavy jar right there. That's about 1 pound of meat, okay, sitting on top of a rim that's theoretically sealed. Now, if you've got any major temperature fluctuation or anything, that bottom seal could come undone and then reseal again. You wouldn't know. Now, experienced canners might have a good idea when they crack open that jar. You get used to what it's supposed to sound like. You get used to the resistance. You get used to the sound, you know, when you open it. Okay? Sound effects were never my thing. But sometimes you're busy. You're not really paying attention. You're not sure. So I'm always better safe than sorry, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be feeding this to my family and myself or my animals, and I don't want to risk that, right? So it turns out, surprise, surprise, that this information came to play. So I'm going to read my notes here. The National Center for Home Food Preservation answered this question on their website, and it says, if jars are stacked in storage, be careful not to disturb the vacuum seal. It would be a good idea to not stack jars too high directly on top of each other. One manufacturer recommends no more than 2 layers high. That's 2 layers. Accidental freezing of canned goods will not cause spoilage unless the jars become unsealed and recontaminated. Now, I don't think it's just freezing. I mean, if you're living in a warm climate and where you store your jars is not necessarily kept at a temperature 70 to 50 degrees, and those jars get warm, in my mind, that's the perfect opportunity for that jar to possibly unseal. Now, again, if you've got that other jar sitting on top of it, you may not realize that this has occurred by the time you get to that jar, okay? So that's from the National Center of Home Food Preservation, who says, yeah, go right ahead and do it. Ball Canning also answered a question back in 2017, a representative, and said that there's no reason not to stack them. They don't recommend stacking them very high, but I think their reasoning was more for the fact that it might get tipped over. Now, that's a valid concern, but these are heavy. I mean, like I said, we're talking about 1 pound each, right? So are you going to tell me that the bottom jar is going to have 1 pound sitting on top of it, possibly another pound sitting on top of it? That's 2 pounds of weight on top of a vacuum sealed lid, okay? And the compound, here's the fun part, okay? The compound for these jars now, this is a new jar. This is one of my beloved canning jars that I will put a link down below, that I buy in bulk, and I love. I have no failures with these. They are absolutely wonderful, okay? But that compound, I'm trying to see if I can get a good picture. That compound is significantly thinner than what it used to be. Let me show you this. I've got some old Care lids, okay? And the compound on these, you can feel it. I mean, you can feel how much thicker, you can see how much thicker that compound is on those lids. Okay, I hope this is coming across for you. So much thicker. And they changed the lids. They changed the lids a couple times now, okay? This is an old Ball Canning. And again, these are, come on, Lise. These are thicker. They are significantly thicker. I also have another brand somewhere down there. These are not as old as the Care ones that I have, but they're still that thicker compound on the lid. Now, when they started changing everything with, removing the BPA, I get it. It's not good for us. At my age, I've probably got more BPA running through my system than oxygen, seriously. So they've got that super, super great compound on these older lids, and then they've got the thin stuff now. I wouldn't even risk stacking with the old compound, but I did take an opportunity to can using some of those old lids because I wanted to see how well they worked. And it was like prying cement off your jars when you went to open them. I mean, the seal was incredible, and I never thought I'd get excited about a jar sealing and how well it sealed, but these were sealed. You know, you knew that compound was getting around the top, and you knew that that was there and it was secure. I was so happy with that. And so these I covet. I've got a bunch of these that I keep out in storage in case of emergencies. Okay, but the lids that they make today, with a little bit of compound that's on there, that's not BPA. I definitely would not risk stacking these on. These don't grab the same way that the old ones do. Okay, but I digress. You can't get the old ones. We shouldn't be using the old ones. That's fine. The point of this is that there's a weight to be factored in. And for any decent amount of time, with any temperature changes at all, which we all experience, okay, I don't, for myself, feel that this is safe. Now, the National Center for Home Food Preservation says it's fine. Ball Canning says it's fine. There's no science behind not stacking them. This is one of those times where I think sometimes you have to sit back and go, well, my common sense or my deduction of the facts is that I think it's safer to not stack them. Or if you are going to stack them, to place cardboard between. Now, that has been the rule of thumb for as long as I can remember. To do not stack them if you have to stack them. And I mean literally, if you have to stack them, then you would put cardboard in between, because that lessens the degree that they're feeling that pressure, that bottom layer. But again, you only stack too high. Now, you will see a lot of YouTubers, you'll see a lot of bloggers who stack their jars. You'll see them on their shelves, their cabinets, every place that they are, and they're just plain old stacked one on top of the other. Okay? It's not safer to put the ring back on and leave it unscrewed a little bit so it sits high, because again, the bottom is going to sit down in. It is still going to feel that pressure, and having the rings on is absolutely not safe, because you can't tell when something goes wrong. This is a science. It's not just a hobby. Okay, again, it's still not a hobby. So there are precautions that you have to take. Now, you guys know me. Okay, I'm very much know the science, listen to the facts, listen to the reasoning why they say you can or cannot do it, and then make an educated decision. My fear is that people are saying, oh no, it's okay, because they want the answer that gives them the result that's easiest for them. Okay, and that's difficult. I mean, I totally understand it. When I first started canning, and I'm like, can I stack the jars? Because I didn't have someplace, you know, I ran out of room. And they're like, if you absolutely have to, put cardboard in between. And I was bummed, because that's not the way I wanted it to look, okay? But it made sense, and it still does make sense. There's no reasoning that I can come up with that it's worth risking stacking jars on top of each other. Now, you've got canners who've been canning for decades. Decades and decades and decades. That say, I've always stacked my jars. Okay, I'm glad. And the manufacturers say, yeah, there's no reason not to. But are you willing to risk it? Are you willing to risk it? It's kind of like, you can drive a car without a seatbelt. It's absolutely doable. Your car will still start and it will still go down the road. But should you? Probably not. Okay? So this is one of those things where you need to make an educated choice for yourself. The manufacturers and the National Center for Home Food Preservation say that it's okay. They're not saying, yeah, go do it. Okay, and they're definitely putting limitations on it. Don't stack more than 2 to 3 high. But to me, it's not worth the risk. So my question is, to stack or not to stack? Do you stack your jars? Why do you stack your jars? Why don't you stack your jars? What is your reasoning for thinking that it's safe or not safe to stack your jars? I would really love to hear your input. I think it's a really great discussion to have. I will admit, I was surprised. I was just always taught not to stack jars. So to find out that the manufacturers and the National Center for Home Food Preservation say, go ahead, you can do it, surprised me a lot. I'm really grateful to the members of the group that brought this conversation up, because I think it's a fantastic conversation to have. These are the kind of conversations that I love to have regarding canning. The who's, what's, why's, wherefores of the entire process are important, and they're important for all of us to understand. So the question is, do you or do you? Let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you do and don't do and why. Remember, if you like what we do here, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And until the next time, be safe.